This is the Regained Wellness Podcast with Jamie Logie, episode 130, your sleep cycle and how to hack it for better rest.
I feel right at home. Yes, indeed. Did I do that?
Hey guys, what's happening? Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Jamie Logie. I run regainedwellness.com, and this is the Regained Wellness Podcast. And thank you for joining me here today and covering a topic. I talk about sleep all the time. It's probably, everyone's always looking for like that, magic pill, magic bullet, like the number one, some way to take control of their health, their wellness. It's sleep. It's hands down. It's called what they call the force multiplier. If things are not being taken care of in your life, health-wise, nutrition, exercise, all that sort of stuff, getting less sleep accentuates those even more so and makes them much worse. On the flip side, if you are, exercising well, good water intake, eating clean, the ability to get good sleep enhances that even more so. So that's what I mean by force multiplier. It affects whatever kind of condition you're looking at. So like I said, I've talked about sleep quite a bit, but I'll be doing a few episodes on specific things. I've got some cool shows coming up, a couple actually amazing interviews, which will be up soon as well too. So look out for those. And the thing with sleep is there's different, it's a whole big topic, but I'll have a few different episodes on, like today it's about understanding the actual sleep cycle and how it works and learning to, understand the different stages and how those affect to your ability to get rest and health. And then I'll do shows on, specific foods and things you want to be eating that will help your sleep get better. And then ones on how you can set an environment like your room and your sort of nighttime routine and all that stuff to actually make for a better sleeping environment, things about like how your pillow should be. There's a lot of good info. So this one today is all about the sleep cycle, how you can understand it, how you can kind of hack it to get the best sleep possible. But before I start, just make sure, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe on basically anywhere you get podcasts these days. I should be there, whether it's iTunes or Stitcher Radio or iHeartRadio or Google Play or whatever, all the big ones, I should be there. So yeah, that's the obligatory subscribe to the podcast while I'm doing the podcast. Okay, now we got that crap out of the way. Let's get right into this episode. All right, so if your health and your wellness are important to you, and I'm going to go out on a limb here and say they are because you're listening to this episode right now and you're listening to a health podcast, and you probably listen to other ones as well too. And I appreciate you listening to this one. But if you've been here for a while, thanks for hanging around. If you haven't been, where have you been? No, thanks for coming out, honestly. Appreciate it. But if you've listened to old episodes, like I said at the start of the show, I talk about sleep quite a bit. And hopefully you've listened to some of those shows and you've got maybe a bit more understanding as I've tried to share. I've had some good guests on talking about this whole issue and how it deals with stress and everything like that. And basically neglecting your sleep can have some really damaging spillover effects on your health. Sleep is when our bodies repair and rejuvenate, and it's when, your brain springs into action at night, and it's where it sort of, catalogs and puts together all the different, moments of the day and memories. And basically when you go to sleep, everything is, on high alert and is working together, and this is when your body grows and repairs and heals and everything like that. So when you understand the importance of sleep and the sleep cycle, it can help you to take control of that, rejuvenating and healing power of sleep. So looking at the sleep cycle and how it works. So, okay, you've nodded off while watching House Hunters Marathon, and you're on your way to La La Land, as it were. No, not the charming movie with Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling, which I really liked. I don't know if everyone liked it, but I actually thought it was awesome. Ryan Gosling is a hometown boy. Just fun fact. He was born in my city and grew up just outside. So there you go. Ryan Gosling shout out. So basically you're looking at a 4-stage process that happens to our bodies each night. So let's look at stage 1. So this is, within minutes, your brain starts to produce these brain waves called alpha and theta waves. And that, helps to slow things down. Your eye movements start to slow down too. I'll talk about the rapid eye movement thing in a second. This is this first stage of sleep. It can last around 7 minutes. You can easily be woken up. This is usually the best for, a quick like cat nap, as it were. It's, when you've fallen asleep in class or in the bathroom at work. It's when you get startled and awake and you swear you weren't sleeping, or you're just resting your eyes. That's what stage 1 is, and it can happen all throughout the day. So stage 2, this is also a pretty light stage of sleep, but your brain now starts springing into action. It starts creating what they call sleep spindles, and it's basically that's a burst of brain activity. If you wake up around the end of this stage, that's good for the, what they call a power nap, which is ideally, when you start sleeping past 20 minutes, that's when it gets a little deeper, and that's when you can get into grogginess and all that sort of thing. So if you are, sort of scheduling in, if you have the ability to fall asleep quick and you're sort of scheduling a power nap, you want to set an alarm that's, 20 minutes or less. So you get a little bit of a energy boost, because your body's not healing or rejuvenating per se, but it's starting to give you a little refresher. But then you can feel a little more, energetic and ready to go. So if you are doing these things, try and keep them, especially if it's like an earlier or mid part of the day. If you have naps that are too long, it can throw things off potentially later at night. Okay, so that's stage 2. So now stage 3 and 4 kind of combine together, and this is when we're getting into deep sleep. And this is when the body starts to slow down and it really relaxes. There's very little muscle activity or that eye movement. You're less likely to be woken during this stage. This is more that stage 3. And now as you move into the stage 4, you begin to produce more brainwaves and you fall into the real restorative sleep. That's in that stage 4 area. When it comes to your health and your wellness, your fitness, your exercise, like all that sort of stuff, this stage is critical, as it's when you start repairing muscle and tissue. And if you're in the goal of, building lean muscle, hopefully you are working out, training, the whole deal, whatever it is, whether you're in the gym or you're hiking or you swim or you do yoga or you're playing pickup sports, whatever, your muscles get bigger when the muscle tissues are broken down, like torn down in these little sort of microscopic tears. That's what you're doing when you're lifting weights. You're breaking down the tissue. When it rebuilds is when it gets bigger and stronger. And you do that with a combination of, adequate protein to repair, water, other nutrients, but sleep. That's when your muscles grow. So, I mean, as much as you think you're building muscle in the gym, no, you're actually building them as you sleep. So it's, this last stage 4 is critical for the repair of muscle and tissue, and it also stimulates growth and development. That's when you boost your immune function. You set your energy up for the day. It's, if that's why, if you are getting run down and sick and stressed, you want to make it a priority to get more sleep, because when you are sick, your immune system is down. When you're not sleeping, you're basically kicking it right in the head while it's down. So you want to boost that immune function, make sure you're getting more sleep. So if you feel sickness coming on, or if you're, already in it, make sure you get more sleep. It's not being lazy. It's not being idle. It's actually repairing and healing your body. Unless you want to be sick longer and longer and have it last with worse symptoms, that's what you're going to get when you don't sleep. So getting into the eye movement, and how that determines when we will actually, dream and all that sort of thing too. We're talking about REM and not the band, which I'll just say it. I hated REM. I'm not a fan. I know everyone loves REM. Didn't do it for me. Sorry, not sorry. But REM is, rapid eye movement, and you enter into this at around 90 minutes into sleep. So this is now where your brain is super high alert, super active. and you start to dream. So along with dreaming, your body at this, stage, sorry, of the night is also, again, springing into action as your heart rate goes up, your blood pressure goes up, your breathing becomes faster and shallow. Each of these REM phases can last around an hour, and typically you have 4 to 5 of these cycles each night, ideally. So, and this rapid eye movement stage, this REM stage, isn't just about dreams of you showing up naked to school or writing an exam that you're not prepared for or whatever, but it actually serves an important function. And it's interesting how all this is connected and why we actually dream. But when you are dreaming, this is kind of a period of sleep where your memory is improved, and you, like, this dreaming stage plays an important role in memory. And then like your learning function. This is when your brain processes and consolidates information from the day before so it can be stored in your long-term memory, such as the fact you love this podcast and you'll tell all your friends about it. Hopefully that'll go into your memory banks tonight, and you'll store it in there. But it's interesting how the connection of why we dream of specific things or events or whatever, but how that connects to how we're developing our memory. And it's like the end of the day where you start filing all your papers and whatever that you worked on through the day, and you put them in the different categories and and whatever. And it's just amazing how your mind works in conjunction with your brain and the whole dreaming thing. So there's also a stage called non-REM sleep, and that, on the other hand, involves no eye movement, and it's basically dreamless sleep. And it's where breathing, your heart rate, your blood pressure, it all becomes lower. Even your brain activity becomes slower. That's kind of I like to call the Kardashian phase of sleep. And that's another stage in the night. So you go in between these different stages between REM sleep and non-REM sleep. So here's a few things, some mental notes to keep if you want to sleep better. The getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep each night it's still a good rule of thumb to get that good, true restorative sleep. And like I said, it's important to recognize, during those times of sickness and stress as well, that you allow yourself to get more sleep. It's really important there. Sickness and stress kind of can go hand in hand, not always, but if you're overwhelmed, so you're not necessarily sick, you don't have like cold symptoms or flu, whatever, but you are overwhelmed with whatever's happening in your life, with work or family, whatever it may be, your stress hormones are pretty peaked, they're pretty high. And then, if it's, you're exposed to, different germs or viruses or whatever, that's, when you easily get sleep because your immune system's down. So when you are overwhelmed and stressed, that's when you do want to make sure you make sleep a priority. So that's when you really burn off those stress hormones at that point. I don't know if this is a good or a bad analogy, but talk about like if you picture like a lake and an oil spill on top of the lake, and the oil is all those stress hormones, and the lake being your body. If you were to light it on fire to burn off all that oil off the top of the water, that's basically what sleep is. Sleep's like that fire that just sort of burns them right off. And at the same time, you're boosting your immune function, making you more readily equipped to handle exposure to whatever germs or conditions are out there. So that's kind of the rundown of the different sleep cycles and how they work. But how do you get the best quality sleep each night? So sleep experts will say that the most important thing is getting in a good routine each night, like a consistent wind down routine, and sticking with it and starting it at the same time each night. So this is going to look different for every person. So it might involve having a shower, then reading and listening to music. Mine would be a hot bubble bath with candles and listening to Zamfir, King of the Pan Flute, watching nothing like that. This, like whatever it is, a combination of things that you do in the same order each night that is consistent. So basically your body recognizes that the sleep cycle is about to begin, and it can start its own natural wind down process and get into sleep easier and more deeper restorative sleep each night. So here's also 4 more tips on how you can, make your sleep as good as possible. So things I've covered a lot before, but here they are all wrapped up in one nice little package in this episode. So first one is keep your room as dark as possible. And darkness basically stimulates melatonin, which is in your brain, which helps to control your circadian rhythm and your sleep cycle. And it's very important in getting that deep sleep, but it needs darkness to activate. When you are exposed to too much light, which I'll get to in a second, it basically turns it off. It disrupts your sleep, but you want your room super dark. So I would suggest, this is what I do, is buy what they call blackout curtains. And these keep your room as dark as possible. And you can get them, you can get them, I think I got mine at Walmart. I'm sure they're at Target. I know you can get them on Amazon. They tend to, there's different types too. There's the straight like blackout curtains, and then the really, really good ones are they're heavier material, and they actually block out sound as well too, because that's, a lot of the sound in your house actually comes through the windows. And it's a good combination of block. If you live near a busy area or a street or a lot of street light, these are really awesome. They're kind of blackout sound dampening curtains. It's what hotels do. They use these type of curtains. I don't know if you ever noticed in hotels, the rooms are pitch black, and they do this because most hotels are in busy areas because they're in, they're near airports and they're in city centers and there's so much noise outside and lights and car lights and parking lot lights. So hotels use these to keep the rooms as dark as possible and to make it comfortable, quiet, and less disruptive. And you might notice like sometimes you do sleep better in these conditions, and that's kind of linked into that darkness factor. So blackout curtains, go for them. Number 2, you should keep your room pretty much on the cool side. And basically when you lie down, your sheets should feel cool when you touch them. So this is because your body, a warm room might make you feel drowsy, but it's not actually going to help you get into that deeper sleep. Our bodies do a bit better with a cooler temperature. So your body goes through normal temperature fluctuations throughout the day. And when you fall asleep, your body actually naturally starts to cool off. So you can help your body get to that lower temperature quicker, which means quicker sleep and deeper sleep, by keeping your room cooler. So there's not a specific temperature, but like I said, if your sheets feel kind of coolish to the touch when you lie down, that's probably where you want to be. You might, depending where you live, you might want to keep your windows open to keep your room cool, and then, close them up later. But just kind of have it a bit cooler than the rest of your house is a good rule of thumb, just to help your body get into that natural sleep cycle with the temperature. So the third thing, which is related to the darkness I was talking about, is cutting out specifically blue light at least 1 to 2 hours before bed. I'm going to link up, I have specific shows on just these individual topics. So things on stress, things on blue light, entire shows, the darkness thing, melatonin. So I'll link up on the show notes, which is on my website, which has all the information I talk about in this episode. So kind of the after party, if you will. And that's regainedwellness.com/130. And I'll have, if you wanted to learn more on some of these different topics and, go a little more in depth on them, that's where you'll find a link for, you can search back through the episodes, but this is sort of in one convenient place. So regainedwellness.com/130. So this one is the blue light, and we're wanting to cut this out around 1 to 2 hours before bed. So like I said, in the same way darkness stimulates melatonin in the brain, blue light disrupts it. And blue light is what comes from the screens of our electronics. So your phone, your iPad, your TV, which tend to be the ones we'll always be using. And this can cause a real disruption in your sleep. So you want to try and avoid them the few hours before bed. This is different than other forms of lighting, like light bulbs or street lights or whatever, which give off more of a yellowish, orangey glow. It can still have an impact on disrupting your ability to sleep, but blue light specifically is almost the same intensity and impression on our eyes as the sun in the middle of the day. That's how intense blue light is. So when you're on your phone or your iPad or whatever at midnight, this, and everything else tends to be dark around you, and this blue light is just going straight through your eyes, disrupting the secretion of melatonin, which happens in the pineal gland, which is basically behind your eyes. To your body, it's 12 in the afternoon, and you're standing out in the middle of a field in a bright, sunny day, and it's going to keep you awake. That's what sunlight does. It helps stimulate the melatonin issue in your sleep cycles and your circadian rhythm. And it's going to keep you super alert. And the problem at night is when our bodies should be winding down, say around 9 or 10 o'clock, the sun's long set. At this time of day, that's when our houses spring into action, and it's, just lit up like Times Square. All the lights are on, TV's going, you got the phone, everything. We've created this sort of 24-hour perpetual daylight situation, and it's really screwing up our sleep. And specifically, it's one thing if it's, light bulbs and candles, whatever, that's a sort of different light. But this blue light is like the sun, and you can tell, like if you drive by houses late at night, you can tell the difference between a house that has just, light bulbs on. It's got more of that warmish glow, compared to a house where you can actually see the blue glow coming from the living room because of them watching TV. And it's the same thing just on a smaller scale with your phone or your tablet or whatnot. And it's, when you're looking at electronics, especially like, a flat screen HD TV, a 4K TV, anything with a retina display, basically any phone, compared to say an old TV like that I grew up on, if you lived in the 80s and you had a 27-inch Zenith TV or a giant wood frame TV that sat on the floor that weighed about 4,000 tons, these are different. They used a picture tube, which is in back behind the screen being sort of a glass, sort of slightly rounded piece that sat in front, and then the picture tube in the back, and then it projected the light through. That's a whole different light source compared to a 55-inch, say 4K Ultra HD display, where the screen is basically the entire light source. Same thing with like your iPad or whatever. That type of light is way more intense, and it's much bigger. So, the biggest TV, like I said, I remember having a 21-inch TV and that thing being massive when we were kids. And when we got a 27-inch, it's like, holy crap, we've got a movie theater in our house now. I have a 55-inch TV, which is absolutely massive. So this blue light issue has only come up in the last decade or so. We didn't have, smartphones were in the mix. I mean, when did the iPhone come out? 2007. Everyone's got a smartphone now. Tablets, these weren't all readily available. Say, okay, 10 years ago, but like 15, 20 years ago, let alone 30 years ago, we didn't have this issue with blue light like we have it now. So it's really created a lot of disruption. Same thing with your laptop as well, too. So there's a few things you can do to minimize this blue light. First is, cut them out completely. If you can cut it out an hour or two before bed, much better for your sleep cycle and everything like that. If that's not always possible, say if you have to be doing work on your laptop, or you've got to scroll through Tinder or be on Facebook or whatever in the wee hours, at least with your laptop, there's a program called Flux, so F.lux. And there's actually a few different versions of them out there now. This one's really good. And it basically takes the blue light away from your laptop screen, and it gives it more of a warmer glow. And it transitions as the day, so at say 10 o'clock, it's at a certain intensity, and then later in the day, like it follows the cycle of the sun. So say at like 1 a.m, it can give off a light that is so dim that you'll still be able to see because everything is dark around, but it's like got the intensity of like candlelight, which is much more natural for your eyes. If you use an iPhone, it's easy now because they have a night shift mode. If you have an iPhone, you hopefully know what I'm talking about, and that gives it, you can turn it on at a certain time, like have it naturally come on from say like 10 at night till 7 in the morning. It gives it that same thing, that more that warmer orangey glow, which is easier on the eyes. It's still a light source, but it's reducing that blue light. And I have to say, it's obviously an issue if Apple is being like proactive in creating this effect on the phone. It's obviously significant because they don't have to do anything they don't give a crap about. So the fact that they've addressed this means they've realized it's an issue. They don't want to be responsible for causing, potential other problems, and they've taken the steps to, create a solution for it. So that's very interesting. And you can find different screen shaders as well too, depending on what you use. If you're on your TV, if you're watching TV, if you're on your TV, congratulations, you've made it. Watching TV, you can change your setting. Most TVs, like HD TVs, will always have 3 settings. They'll have standard, dynamic, and movie. And standard, obviously normal. The dynamic is the super bright, better for the middle of the days. It's what the electronic shops, they always keep their TVs on the highest dynamic setting. So when you're in the store, they like pop out huge and they look amazing. And then you take it home, it's not always looking the same. So they have everything, all the intensity cranked up. But the movie setting softens that intensity from the glow. It sort of warms it out a little bit. So at least put it, after 10 o'clock or whatever, at least put it on that setting. So you're going to reduce that blue light. And yeah, see, I can go on about blue light forever, but check out those other shows if you want to hear even more about blue light. Okay. So one more here. And this is probably, I assume common knowledge, but just in case it's not, you want to avoid caffeine after 3 to 4 p.m., depending on a few different factors. You'd be really surprised how long caffeine can last in your system. And the noticeable effects of caffeine, it takes around, say, 10, 20 minutes. Caffeine really kicks in. The effects of it can wear off in a few hours, but it has what's called a half-life, which extends its effects in your bloodstream. So this can last anywhere from 5 to 6 hours, possibly even longer too. So if you have a coffee at like 5 or 6 or whatever, and you try to go to sleep and you wonder why you're not nodding off, this might be due to the caffeine. Some people are more sensitive as well too, so you might have to experiment when the best time, if you're a caffeine consumer, you're going to have to maybe experiment when the best time is to cut it off for yourself. It might be, 1 in the afternoon, it might be 2. If you're having trouble with your sleep, it's a good idea to sort of diary and journal what you've done that day. So like when you exercised, when you ate, when your last meal was, when your coffee was, and have a look at those different things. And then you can try and back it off. But caffeine is a real disruptor. It actually does have health benefits though, as long as it's from a natural source. Obviously real coffee, green coffee bean extracts, green tea extract, it can provide some health benefits, but you don't want to go nuts with it, especially when it comes to sleep. Okay. So that's, kind of it. Hopefully you can, get this understanding of your sleep cycle and how to make sure you're taking the right steps to get proper sleep, and, making it easier on your body with some of those things I laid out. If you're fit and active, sleep is crucial for getting healthier and stronger and fitter, and, performance. If you're in sports, it's very crucial. Some people are just genetically wired that they can get by without any sleep, and that baffles me. That would be an amazing thing. I can't. I need a ton, or I'm an absolute mess. And some people, I always think of Gordon Ramsay, Chef Gordon Ramsay, if you know him. He gets apparently 4 hours sleep a night and works, it's a bit different now as he's more of like a celebrity and whatnot, but as a chef and building his empire, and I guess still doing that, the amount of hours he would work, and his idea was that by only sleeping 4 hours a night, by the end of the week he had an extra 24 hours of time available to to further everything he'd be doing. And there's just some people that can get by without sleep, and it's amazing. I don't know if in the long run that's good for them, but if you're that person or not, and whether you need it or not. So make it a point to try and get around that that 7 to 9 hours. And same thing, it's good to sort of document and journal where you're at just to sort of identify things and see where you are. You might feel you do better on 7 hours compared to 8, or, you're better on 6.5. Just play around with it and just, kind of keep track of like how you feel, how your sleep was, how much you got. There's a lot of like sleep apps you can use, same thing, that'll track how deep your sleep was and how long you went for and all that sort of thing. So it's, even if you're not big on recording and data, it can help in things like this. If you've not been feeling 100% on a certain issue, it's a good sort of thing to record just so you get an idea where you're at. Okay, so that's sleep. We can all dream of Ryan Gosling tonight. Again, if you like the show, make sure you subscribe. If you really like it, leave a rating and review. Then more people get to see it. And that makes my mom prouder of me, and everybody's happy. Okay, so I will see you soon. Bye.